Welcome back to another episode of Manifestation Diaries. Today is a hot take topic. It is a topic that has been highly requested from our Instagram audience. And I'm just really delighted to see where this conversation goes because I know it is going to help so many of you that know that you're actively taking all the action, you're doing the visualization, you're saying the affirmations, you're doing all of the things that you know will help you manifest your dream. And now you're stuck in the void, the place between where you currently are. You can see your future, but it feels like your reality is not catching up to all of the inner stuff that you've been doing. So grab your cup of tea, your cup of cacao. Let's dive in and get started. Firstly, want to say where this episode has been inspired from. Yesterday, I had the privilege of going to an amazing event hosted by Yvonne Trakian and Matt Cook. And it was a day just filled with so much high vibe energy, so many great connections. I met so many incredible women, even men were there, and had wonderful conversations. It was filled with manifestation talks, and I just learned so much about not only manifestation, but a lot about where people are getting stuck in their manifestation process. And so that event has really inspired this episode. We're going to talk about the shadow. We're going to talk about human design. We're going to talk about all of the different concepts that I bring in my unique way to manifestation today. And I truly believe that I've got a different way sometimes of communicating how we go through the void because I've been in the void many, many, many times. And having recently come out of a dark night of the soul and having really ventured through that void, I know what it feels like to feel like the universe is against you. So let me paint a picture. Maybe this is you right now. You've discovered manifestation and you're following a process. Maybe it's mine, it could be somebody else's, but you've got a 4 or 5 or 6, 7 step, it doesn't matter. You've got a certain process that you follow. I'm going to go through mine, which could be really insightful to how you now manifest. And my formula is the quad manifestation formula. This alchemizes all of my knowledge. It blends many different modalities together, and it's very simple. It's discover, dissolve, dance, and detach. And essentially, you have to firstly discover what it is that you truly want in life. And I can go into an entirely different podcast episode on how to be specific versus non-specific, because I know that there's a load of confusion around that too. But essentially, you have to know what it is that you want, right? You can't jump into your car and say to yourself, okay, GPS, take me to my destination. The GPS is going to be like, great, I'll take you anywhere you want. Just plug in the coordinates. If you sit there going, well, I don't know where I want to go, the GPS isn't going to start up. The car is not going to know where to go. And so you'll be stuck in the parking lot for the rest of your life if you don't know where you're going. Now, maybe you think you want to go to Rome and you get there and you're like, this is actually not my vibe. I really actually want to maybe France. Perfect. You've gained information along your journey. And maybe if Rome wasn't the city for you, you've learned what would be the city for you. And so every dot or destination that you get to on your bigger journey is just another iteration. It's just another milestone. It's just another step in the direction of where you want to go. And when we realize that manifestation is not about the end destination, it really is about the journey, you'll stop worrying so much about the end destination and start enjoying this very moment. So we really first have to discover what it is that we want. Now, secondary to that, we don't manifest from thoughts. We don't manifest just from feelings. Yes, we have those as part of the process, but we actually manifest from who we are being. And so part of discover is not just about discovering where it is you want to go. It is deeply discovering who you are. And not just who you are in this moment. It's also about unlocking the potential that already lives within you. That will help guide you to becoming the future version of yourself, and you're discovering who that is now. Let's talk about faking it till you make it versus embodying it until you become it. Because I don't believe in faking it until you're making it. I believe that when you discover who your true essence is, and having done hundreds of human design readings now, every time somebody comes to me, they literally feel cracked open, and like I see them so deeply in a human design reading, not because I've learned anything or imparted any new wisdom with them, but because they're like, I've always known this about myself, but I've been told that I can't be this way, or that I shouldn't do this, or whatever it is. And so having that permission to be exactly who you are meant to be is what embodying it until you become it means. It means that you're stripping back the layers of who you thought you had to be in order to be celebrated, in order to be revered, in order to be loved, and you're actually coming home to yourself. And so that's why it's embodying it until you become it. It's not faking it until you make it. It really is about tapping into your truest essence and letting that true essence guide you. And so you are going to raise your standards. You are going to start to see changes. And that's because you're aligning to your authentic expression. And authentic expression is, again, something that's so misunderstood. People think being authentic means that you're trying to be a certain way in order to be liked again, which actually makes us end up living in the shadow once again, which is an interesting dynamic. But authentic expression is, how can I be true to myself and embrace my darkness and my light? And when you get that right, that is when you start to live in accordance to your own terms. So that's the first step with my quad formula. It's to deeply discover. The second step is to dissolve. So once you start to discover what it is that you want, once you start discovering who you are and who you're meant to be, you're going to start to come up with resistance. And that is normal. That is the ego. The ego wants to keep you safe. The ego wants to protect you. The ego wants you to gain attention, because when we are babies, the way we get fed, the way we have our basic survival needs met, is when we seek and gain attention from our parents. Now, if you don't get that correct attention, you will be left for dead, because if you aren't being able to be fed by your parents, that's a survival need that you need. If you're not being well nourished, if you're not well sheltered, if you don't have the correct clothes, if you're too cold, all of those things, it can lead to death. And so this is how our ego is shaped and formed, is that it's constantly seeking out ways in which it can protect itself and ways in which it can gain attention, because it goes back to survival needs. So the ego is doing a great job of protecting us. It's also doing a great job of protecting us in a way that we often then fall into self-sabotaging patterns, or we fall into beliefs that are not actually true, because all beliefs, so this is also something we need to discuss. All beliefs can either serve you or go against you. My belief might serve me, but the same belief may not serve you. And so recently I had the opportunity to witness a really interesting conversation. And the conversation was with somebody around being brought up to believe that she could be anything, do anything, have anything. And the way that that was presented was quite harsh as well. But for her, it served her. For the person she was having the conversation with, who was a psychotherapist, she was like, but that's emotionally bypassing. And it was just so interesting to witness that conversation, because it went against a different value set. And so when people's values differ, again, our ego comes out, because we want to be seen as a better person. And so it's really about understanding what serves you and what does not serve you. And that's simply all beliefs are. And so you may have some beliefs that served you in the past that no longer serve you anymore. Because we're constantly growing and evolving, our belief systems are going to change too. And there are going to be some beliefs that protected you back in the past, and now you need to let go of them to change them. And maybe they'll come back again in the future and add a different kind of experience for you. So all beliefs are a filtering system to how we operate in the world. And thank goodness we don't have all the same belief systems. Otherwise, we live in a very boring, monochromatic world. And so when it comes to dissolving the things that are standing in your way, it's simply about getting curious about what is not serving you. That could be a belief system. It could be a pattern, a way of being. It could be an environmental factor. So maybe you're living with people that don't serve your highest value. Maybe the music that you're listening to is all about heartbreak anthems, and here you are trying to manifest the love of your life, but you've got heartbreak anthems on repeat. That's when we look at environmental factors. And so we really are looking at everything from an energetic, a physical, a mental, a spiritual, an emotional level here in Dissolve to have all of those energetic bodies align to receiving what you desire. And it's about making space. And sometimes that looks like physically creating space, and the universe will come in and crack your soul open. And this is a very big thing to understand when we get to the void. But basically, the universe is always going to be working for your highest favor. And it's going to sometimes prepare you in ways that feel very uncomfortable. But this is what dissolving is. It's dissolving everything that does not serve you so that you can have that quantum leap into the next iteration where you are able to receive everything. And so you're constantly tweaking this entire process on a continuous basis. You're always rediscovering parts of yourself. You're always rediscovering what you want. You're always going to be dissolving the next thing. And it's not to say that this is step one, this is step two. It's just a sequence of events that will help guide you to your manifestations. The third step is to dance. Now, this is something I've really learned so much about, which is masculine and feminine energetics. Now, we all have masculine and feminine energy that runs through us. It's our yin and our yang, and we all need both of it. The masculine energy is a structured energy. It's here to provide for us. It's here to get that support. It's here to make sure our survival needs, our basic survival necessities are met. And when we feel provided for, that is when the feminine energy, which is actually the energy we manifest in, is able to come out and co-create with the universe. Now, manifestation is a very creative exercise. Now, creation is not how we think about it in its olden day kind of way. A lot of times when I say, oh, you just need to be creative, people are like, but I can't paint, I can't draw. Creation is about tapping into your mind to see many different possibilities to something that could be like right in front of you. And the more we can really allow our minds to open to infinite possible ways of receiving our desires, that is when we're in co-creation with the universe. Because this is again where ego comes up. Manifestation is about always holding the vision toward what you want. Very important part of the conversation for where we're going. You always hold the vision for what you want, but how it manifests may not be how you think it will happen. And so a very big lesson I've learned with my business is that I know in my heart of hearts, I'm here and I'm meant to be a millionaire in this lifetime because it is part of my purpose to help empower many people. Now, I truly thought that that was going to be through my previous brand, Mind Your Hero. And I never had a shadow of a doubt in my mind that that was going to be the brand that would allow me to have that. And there came a point where I was just pushing and forcing and hustling because my ego was trying to control the narrative of how that was going to happen. And so the more I controlled, the less I actually received the manifestations. And the more I was like, but I'm doing all of the manifestation practices, I'm visualizing, I'm doing the affirmations, I'm doing the journaling, I'm programming my subconscious mind, I'm looking into my shadow, and it just feels like it's getting worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. And it's because I was so attached to the how that I thought, and this is the irony, I was like, and I'm not attached to the how because I'm trying different programs and I'm trying different ways and I'm trying, all these new ideas. But I had to let go of it's going to be through this vehicle. And now I realize that me being a millionaire could happen through that manifestation moment. It could happen through the lottery. It could happen through my husband and his ideas coming to fruition and him taking off. It could happen in many different ways. But I have to allow myself to be open to receiving that. And that is what feminine energetics allows you to succumb to, is the different possibilities, the different ways, the creative side of it all. But with dancing, this step, it's all about using these two energies to help you understand how to take inspired action in a way that will bring you the results in the best way possible. And so this is where we also bring in the conversation of human design, which is, if you're following your strategy and your authority in human design here, this is how you're going to ensure that you're dancing with the universe in a way that makes sense for you. So when we request to the universe what we want, that is actually a form of masculine energetics, because we're getting clear on what we want. It's structure. I'm putting it out there, right? You're giving that. Then you have to take the moment to sit back, to open your mind, to have that silence, to go within, to receive what is going to come through. Then it's about taking action again. I know that in order to get there, I need to do X, Y, and Z. So perhaps it's you want to start a business, and you know that starting a social media account is going to be something that will help you grow your personal brand. And so that's the action step that you can take today. And it's like going to feel really good in the moment of like, okay, I'm going to grow my social media brand. And then what happens is that you start growing your social media brand and you get 3 people liking the same 3 people. And one of which is your mom, and the other one's your best friend, and another one's your sibling. And you're going to go, I expected a little bit more from this. So, universe, what is going on here? Is this you showing me that I'm not supposed to be doing this? But again, maybe you're doing stuff on TikTok and you should be doing stuff on Instagram or LinkedIn. And there always will be resistance. And this is where I think that manifestation leaves out building resilience from a conversation a lot of the time. It is so important that we build up that resilience within ourselves. And this is why I've done things, especially over the last 3 years, that really put me out of my comfort zone, because I've really cultivated this belief in myself that I can do hard things. And sometimes it's not even drastically complicated things. It's me going and doing an ice plunge or dipping in the Irish Ocean. I hate cold water. Like, you don't understand how much I hate cold water. And I always used to remember watching on the news on Christmas Day people that would go swimming in like Antarctica, wherever, and be like, those people are crazy. I could never do that. And yet here I am doing things that I thought were really hard, because it builds up that resilience and that self-belief in myself and that trust within myself that I can do hard things. And no matter what happens, I've got my own back. And so this is how we start to dance with the universe, is by knowing when to tap into masculine, then knowing when to tap into feminine, then knowing when to tap into masculine, then knowing when to tap into feminine, because you need both. And so often I see too many people tapping into masculine, which is, I can control this, I can do this, I've got that just do it energy and go, 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 go. That doesn't yield results either. And then on the opposite end of the spectrum, if you're going so deeply into the feminine energetics, I'm just going to nurture myself and love on myself, and great, but you need both. And so you can burn out in the feminine just as much as you can burn out in the masculine, because the feminine is going to be like, oh, I've got this creative idea. And because there's no structure, because there's no flow, like it's just all about going with the flow, you can burn out in the feminine too. And a lot of people don't understand that. So dancing is really about taking aligned, inspired action in a way that is correct for you. And then we get to the last step, which is ultimately the hardest step. But hopefully I'm going to explain detachment in a way that lands differently for you. Because for the longest time, when I first got into the manifestation world, I always heard about people saying you've got to detach from the outcome. And for me, that looked like, well, I don't care. I just don't care if I get my goal or not. And then I hadn't read the book, Mark Manson, The Subtle Art of Not Giving Up. And I thought that was like, oh, you just really don't give a fuck about anything that you're manifesting. And that's the art of detachment. Okay, it's back. Let's back it up, because that is not what detachment actually means. Detachment is not about not caring. Detachment is not being nonchalant about your manifestations. Detachment is deeply caring so much about what it is that you want to achieve for whatever that driving reason is, that you accept that the outcome of action that you take can yield you different results. And so it may not be the final action, but you're willing to keep trying. And so detachment looks like acceptance. Detachment looks like deeply accepting the polar extremes of the outcomes of the action that you take could yield. What do I mean by this? I'm creating this podcast episode. I have to deeply accept that this could reach one person. It might not even reach anybody, but maybe it reaches one person. I have to deeply accept that that could be the worst outcome. I also have to deeply accept that maybe this podcast goes viral. Maybe it has 1 million downloads. It changes my life. Would I be ready for that? And then you ask yourself those questions. What would you make that mean about yourself? Because truth be told, when we can neutralize everything by not making it mean something about ourselves, that is, again, when we know how to detach. So if it went to one person, what would I make that mean about myself? Maybe I didn't market it correctly. Great. That's information. It doesn't mean that I failed, that I'm not good enough, that nobody wants to hear my message. I have to ask myself a better set of questions here. Right. Did I market this correctly? Did I share it? Did I, if I didn't have an Instagram audience, for example, and I was trying to launch this podcast and get more people to like and view and comment on it, have I tried every strategy? And if I have and still nobody's listened to it, then maybe it's either not the right time for this kind of content, or maybe it's that I need to up level my skills on how I present on a podcast. That is information, and that is information that I can use. It does not mean that I'm not good enough to be doing a podcast. Can we see the difference here? You have skills that are valuable in this world, and sometimes you need to hone in on those skills. Honing in on skills does not mean that you're not adequate enough as a human being. Very different. Right. The other extreme would be that this podcast goes viral. It reaches 1 million people. I get my book publishing deal. Everything just happens. It takes off overnight. Would I be able to do that? And the answer is yes, I actually would now. A year ago, possibly not. Today, yes, I would, because I've grown to becoming an energetic container that can hold all of that. And I trust myself enough to know that I can overcome both challenges. I can overcome the feedback of it's not been a successful podcast. And I know that I have the trust in myself to change things to make it successful. And if I get everything, I trust myself that I will make a plan to know how to navigate the next steps forward if this podcast were to go viral. That is how we detach. It's by deeply accepting and preparing for both outcomes and not making it mean anything about ourselves and just seeing everything as information. Okay, that is my manifestation process. It's a quad formula. It is derived from deeply understanding ancient manifestation laws, deeply understanding manifestation through the lens of human design, neuroscience, NLP, all of the different things. It has it in there. Right. Now we can start to really dissect the void, because a lot of the time we think that the inspired action towards our manifestations is, but I've meditated every day and I've journaled. Meditation, hypnosis, sound baths, journaling, saying your affirmations are all great tools to help you change your frequency. That is not the act of manifestation itself. So let's dive into what does it mean to be co-creating with the universe. Co-creating with the universe is very similar to going to gym. If you want to be the healthiest version of yourself and have a six-pack, what are you going to do? You're going to go to gym and you're going to go do some sit-ups and crunches and squats and whatever else. Is that the only way you're going to be getting your six-pack? No. You're going to need to understand that your abs are going to also be made in the kitchen. They're also going to be how you continue to be throughout the day. So if you go and you do 100 crunches in the morning at gym and then only eat McDonald's for the rest of the week, do you think you're going to get your six-pack or abs? No, it's not how it works. And so a lot of people think that because they've said their affirmations and done their journaling and written down their manifestations, that was the inspired action that they needed to take. That is just the gym. It's a part of the manifestation process, but living your healthiest life, living your manifested reality is what you do for 24 hours a day. Sleep is included in this process because when we sleep, that is when our brains are actually rewiring the new neural pathways in our mind. This is why sleep is so important. Now, as a mama, and I know that I have loads of mamas that are going to be listening to this, and you're going to be probably triggered like, I'm still not getting a full night's sleep. And so, yes, if you are a mama, especially if you don't have a baby that sleeps through the night yet, that would be me. I know how difficult it can be to manifest because you don't have that space for your mind to create neural pathways. And so there are different things that we can implement into our daily lives to support our souls in that co-creative process. And that will be an episode for a different time. But just know that when I say sleep is part of the process, it is a part of the process. It is not the only thing. Okay. So you have 24 hours in a day where you are co-creating with the universe around the clock. It is not just in the moments that you're journaling, meditating to bring in your manifestations. What happens with the void is that there is a time delay in the universe. And thank God we have a time delay in the universe. Because otherwise, if you had to close your eyes right now and I said to you, visualize a pink elephant chasing you. If manifestation happened in real time, you would now be running down the street with a pink elephant chasing you. Thank God there is a time delay in the universe. Because imagine you manifested every single one of your fears as well. Imagine you manifested every single one of your dark thoughts. We have time to change the timeline. And I had a really profound experience that I haven't shared with anybody yet because I didn't know how to articulate it. And it came to me yesterday during the event where I was able to unravel this in my mind, to have words to put to it. I remember myself, so February this year, between January and February, March, I was going through a really tough time. I was having anxiety attacks. I was really worried about income. I was genuinely a mess, right? Genuinely a mess. And I remember sitting on the chair one day and I started having a panic attack. And I felt my future self warning me about something. And I remember thinking, I'm being warned about something here. I'm being warned about something here. Is something bad going to happen? And I remember myself taking that moment of going, if I don't make a change to what I'm currently doing, something bad could happen. But I have the power to make a different choice. So how can I start making different choices? And that feeling came back another time where again, I was actually fine. Things were working out. Things were like better financially. But that warning came again. I was like, is something going to happen here? Is something going to happen here? And so I took that awareness and I was like, what are all the different possibilities that are available to me right now that I might not be able to see something from the future, but how can I choose differently? And there have been crazy, crazy, crazy things that have even happened in my experience over the last week, where I truly believe that by making different decisions, I jumped timelines. And jumping a timeline doesn't mean that you're instantly going to receive something. Sometimes it means that you're going to avoid something, because all of a sudden I went from feeling anxious to everything's working out. Everything that I was worried about is working out. And I had so many signs and symbols that were also from like divine guidance, the universe, spirit guides, whatever you want to call it, people from that have passed over that have been telling me that it's all going to be okay. And I feel that to my core now, but it's because I made different decisions. So just know that you've always got the power to choose differently. Now, that is a little bit of like the void that you'll get stuck into. So when you're in the void, what happens is that you're in the time delay. You're in the time delay where your reality is starting to catch up to the visualizations that you keep seeing. So I know what it feels like. You're in your mind and you can see everything. You can see the life where perhaps you're manifesting a family. And that was how I first got into this whole entire world, is that I wanted so deeply to have a family. And you can see that there's a family, and maybe you don't know who the husband or the partner would be, but you can visualize that you've got this amazing loving home, you've got children running around, you're holding this in your heart, and you can feel it. You can feel it to the core of your being. And yet you've just been ghosted by somebody on a date again. And you're like, what the hell? Like, I've been visualizing, like, what is going on here? This is where I want you to know that you are in the void for a very specific reason. And it's because you're learning about things for the discovery phase of who you need to be or who you need to become or what it is that you actually want. And the only way you learn that is through experience. So often we think, well, I'm just going to sit down and really think about what it is that I want. But how do you know if you like chocolate or you don't like chocolate? I could sit here, if you've never tasted Dubai chocolate before, let's just say that, right? If you've never tasted Dubai chocolate, I have the privilege of having had some when we were flying through Dubai on our way back to South Africa and then back home to Dublin. And I could sit here and I could say, well, it's got this pistachio flavor. It's a little bit chewy in the middle. It's coated with milk chocolate. You probably know what the milk chocolate is like. And it's got like a bit of a saltiness and a sweetness. And even though you could visualize that, until you actually eat that piece of Dubai chocolate, you're not going to know if you like it or not. And so we can't sit and write down all of the things that we want to manifest and not go out and be prepared to receive information, because information is going to start to fine tune our filter system of what it is that we like and what it is that we don't like. And so when we have an experience of going on a date, and I remember this happening so often with all the different dates that I went on, like the 51st dates that I was stuck in, I would go on a date and be a bit disappointed because I was like, oh, this person was just like this. And there was a person that swore a lot, or there was a person that I remember was just really good on paper, but very boring, no chemistry, right? And so all of those different things were teaching me, I want to have somebody that I'm attracted to. I want somebody that is like this. I want somebody that doesn't swear all the time. I want somebody that, those were my things that were coming up and being apparent to me with every date that I went on. So every experience is helping prepare you for what it is that you desire. But most people get stuck in the void because they make all of those lessons mean something about them. I'm not pretty enough. That's why he didn't like me. I wasn't good enough. I wasn't this. It's not anything about you. It's just information. And it's showing you what you do like and what you don't like and what you want more of and what you want less of. That's all it's doing. And so when you're in the void, thank God there's a time delay, because you're becoming the energetic container. Now, this is also a very important part of the conversation. You do not manifest from your temporary state of being. And so this is where people get confused as well. They'll do their journaling and they'll be really grateful and be like, I'm so happy and grateful now that I've got my 4-bedroom home, or I've got my car, or I've got my relationship, whatever it is. I'm so happy and grateful now that. And I feel really good, and then you go out into the world and you get triggered and you stump your toe, you spill your coffee, and you're permanently grumpy, and then you're blaming and complaining, and you will have what we call a bit of cognitive dissonance here, because you will see yourself as a positive person. You will see yourself as a positive person. Why? Well, I did my hour morning routine and I said my affirmations and I did journaling. But how are you showing up for the 23 hours of the other part of the day? Because a lot of people do things that are going against their vibration. If you are gossiping, if you are talking badly about others, if you're complaining, if you're blaming, if you're doing any of those things, you're actually chipping away at your subconscious mind. You're actually damaging what your potentiality is. Because every time you go, can't believe she's wearing that outfit, what is that doing? It's not that you would like to wear that outfit. It's going, she can express herself in that way. And so now your subconscious mind is going, it's not safe to express myself because somebody's going to judge me. This is a huge part of what we call becoming a magnetic monopole. So there are 8 energies that you can work with inside the identity center, one of which is self-expression. That's a side conversation. But can you start seeing how it's not just the manifestation practice that you did in the morning? It's actually who you're being for the 23 hours of the day. So we do the manifestation practice in the morning to help us get into a predominant frequency of already being abundance, already being love, already being free. I'm just thinking of some of the common feelings that would be associated with the things that we want to manifest. And so when you start being those things in every area of your life, in every way, that is when you're going to quantum leap. And so how can you, when you're in the void and you can see the visualization and it's not happening right now, how can you already be that version of yourself in every way, in all areas of your life? So when I was in the void myself, it was all to do with business because I truly, it, it brings me to tears every single day. And every single night before we go to bed, we talk about this. And if you had to be a fly on the wall in one of our rooms in our home, you'd actually probably roll your eyes at the amount of times my husband and I say how grateful we are for the life that we live, because we are. And it brings me to my knees with outpouring gratitude to have the family that we have, to be living in the area that we are. Like, it really is just so special. And I'm so grateful for the life that we have. And I've had that gratitude in my heart for a very long time, even when business was not going in the way that I wanted or dreamed it to be. And I was so frustrated because I was saying, but I'm so grateful for my life. And this is like the final piece of the puzzle. I'm so grateful. Like, I have the home, I have the family, I have all of it. And I just want my business to take off because I want that outpouring of, I've got so much wisdom inside of me that I can feel genuinely needs to be shared with the world. And I can feel that there's something inside of me that just needs to come out and it's going to change the world. And I can feel this and I want to express that. And I want to be helping people, but how can I help people if I have no clients to help? That's how I genuinely felt. And there was also resentment in that because, I wanted to do all of these things, but a lot of them actually require resources and financial abundance to be able to do the things that I want to do. Like, I want to be able to produce my journals again, and I know what that would look like and the costs involved, and it's very steep financial outlay. And I want to be able to do that. And I was like, well, if I don't have clients, I can't do that. And then you start resenting, the potential of what you could have, and you don't appreciate what you currently have. And so that's why we get stuck in the void once again. And so when you're stuck in the void, it's about going, where am I desperate for this now? Because wherever you're desperate, you're going to be repelling your desires. And I use this example. I've been using this example for years and years and years. And that is, if you were sitting at the bar with your girlfriends, just having a wonderful girls' evening out, or, if you're a guy, you're with the lads and you're having this wonderful evening out. And somebody comes up to you and they're like, you're the most beautiful person I've ever seen in the world. Please, 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 may I have your number? And I really want to get to talk to you. Can I bring you roses? Can I do this? You'd be like, whoa, dude, like, chill. I am, firstly, not interested. Secondly, I'm out with my girls. Can you just give me like some space? And, you might be saying some bouncer, like, get this guy out of my space. Like, this is just too much. And often we show up to the universe with those desires too. Now, I also know why we do this, especially when it comes to money energetics. Again, if our basic needs are not provided for, it's very difficult to get into that mindset where we can start seeing things from different possibilities. Because when we are not provided for, especially with our basic needs, it's very difficult to tap into creativity. And so we need to first sometimes do things that we don't necessarily want to do, that may not be in full alignment with where we are going, in order to make sure our basic needs are provided for. We have to always go back to, how can we be provided for? This is why the dance step is so much more intricate than just taking inspired action. We have to feel provided for. We have to know that we have a roof over our head, food on our table and shelter. And so this is why when it comes to manifestation, we have to understand that we can't just be giving the same advice to everybody, because we don't know what their cultural background is, what their genetics are, what their generational upbringing is. We don't know what situation that they're currently in, and not all of this information will work for just anybody. We have to deeply understand that different people are living in different situations right now. And so when we really understand that the same process isn't going to work for everyone, we also realize that we're also unique in our own ways. And so again, the reason I really love human design is because I'm able to very quickly pinpoint how my clients get to be the most prosperous, loved, wealthiest, happiest, fulfilled version of themselves, because it's literally written into the codes of the cells of your being, your DNA, and that is all given to you from the stars. And so again, let's just go back to the void. The reason we get stuck in the void as well is because we're constantly raising our standards. And so you may, for example, want to manifest great wealth in your business. And maybe you manifest your first $3,000 month and you're like, this is amazing. And then you go onto social media and everyone's celebrating nowadays, like the new $10,000 month is the new $100,000 month. And so everybody's celebrating $100,000 month. And now we've even started seeing a lot of people celebrating $1 million months. And that's amazing and it's expensive. And then you go back and you're like, well, my little $3,000 month is really like insignificant here. And so expectations are also going to be the demise of your manifestations, because if you had set out to make money in your business and you get your first sale, I will never forget the first sale. I don't think anybody as an entrepreneur will ever forget the first time they make a sale in their business. The amounts of joy and especially from a stranger, I promise you it will bring you to tears, because it's that moment of somebody else appreciates my work, and it's just on a whole new level of experience. And so when you start out, like when I first started out in this industry, I wanted to make $200 to $300 extra a month because I wanted to be able to have a more abundant Christmas. That's literally why I started being an entrepreneur. And then I joined a mastermind. And in that mastermind, I will never forget the first call, because it had me clutching my metaphorical pearls, because the coach at the time went around and was asking everyone what their goals were. So I was the only South African in a room filled with mostly people from America. And they were all going, oh, I want $5,000 a month. And I was like, what? People are making $5,000 a month in the online world? This was back in 2019. It blew my freaking mind. It blew my mind. It was something that was just inconceivable to me. And then the coach at the time turned around to those people and he's like, those are great goals, but you should be aiming for at least $10,000 a month. I was like, what? What? This is unreal. And later on that year, I did have my first $5,000 month. And that for me blew my mind. And because that then became a very standard amount that I was starting to earn, I also started raising my expenses with hiring teams and all sorts of things. And eventually my expenses were $5,000 a month. And so I had to obviously raise my financial floor and ceiling when it came to wealth. But if I had then gone and said, oh, we've only made like X amounts of money, it kind of diminishes everything that you've achieved up until this point. And so with your standards raising, yes, your standards will raise, but never lose the magic and the sight of what you've already achieved, because otherwise you're in the void and you're just looking at how much further you have to go, as opposed to looking at everything you've already achieved. And I always use this example of climbing Mount Everest. If you were to set out today and climb Mount Everest, most people don't even make it to base camp. But if you make it to base camp, most people would be looking up going, oh, but look at how much I've still got to climb up the mountain. Instead of taking a moment to go, look at how far I've climbed up already. Look at the view I can see from this perspective. It's completely different. I'm in the clouds. Stop looking at how much further you have to go and already witness everything that you've done. And when you can really see just how far you've come, you'll stop feeling like, but this is how much further I have to go. And again, I know it's difficult, especially when you've got the practical and tangibles of needing to pay for bills, of needing to send your kids to school, putting food on the table, all of those different things. I get that. But chances are, if you are listening to this podcast, you already are so much more abundant than you already realize. If you are listening to this on any kind of device, you have a device to be listening to this podcast on. If you are watching this, again, it's a different kind of experience, but you have these devices, you have the ability to hear this. And so I'm guessing that you're probably not in a complete survival mode where you're needing to worry about your survival needs first. Yes, there might be things like school fees and like extra things, but chances are you have already got what you require to listen to this podcast in the first place. Right. So that's just a little caveat there. But going back again to the void, because I know that we really are getting into that experience. What also happens is that people feel like they're going backwards, right? So we feel like we're going backwards because when we start to manifest and when we start to become this energetic container that can hold it all, the universe is once again going to crack us open to make space for what it is that we are going to be able to hold. And so if you had given me $1 million at the beginning of my business, I can guarantee you I would not have had much to show for it today. And why is that? Well, it's because I had really shitty money habits. So I was really good at manifesting more money, and I was also really good at spending more money. And so if you'd given me $1 million, I wouldn't have been able to hold that. And so what happens is that the universe comes in and cracks you open. And so you're going to think that at some point you're moving backwards in life, but you're not moving backwards. Now, this is very prevalent in generators and manifesting generators. And if you've ever felt this feeling before, it's like, I feel stuck and I feel itchy and I just want to move and I don't know how to move right now because I'm like, I need to go, but you don't know how to go. And that is because you're being drawn back. And this is how I always describe it. If you think of an archer, he's going to draw his arrow back in the bow and there's going to be a moment of pause. And the greater the pause, the more accurate the arrow seeks the target. And so right now, the universe is pulling you back, and that's going to feel like it's resistance. It's going to feel really challenging. It's going to feel like you're being yanked. But it's because the universe is preparing you to literally catapult forward, to quantum leap into the next level. And if you're not aware of that pause, you might shoot out too quickly. And if you ever seen an archery competition, arrows that go out too fast fall to the ground in front of you, and then they need to be reloaded and pulled back, and then the opportunity, so are you not taking time to have that pause to recalibrate? And so often when we feel like we're moving back, that's when we move into force and push and hustle energy. And that's when we haven't learned lessons and we haven't transcended what our souls need to in order to move to the next level. So I believe that divine timing is not a linear concept, right? So when we look at time in relationship to the quantum field, we know that time is just a construct. Time is something that helps us anchor ourselves into this here and now moment. But when we look at it into the quantum world, we have all timelines available to us at any given time. And how we collapse that timeline is by being more of the version that is able to be in that timeline right now. Okay. I know that that's a bit of a weird concept to really get, but divine timing is, have you learned all the lessons that you need to learn in order to be that next version of yourself? And so I don't believe divine timing should be called divine timing. I believe it should be, have you become the version? And these are all the challenges that you've needed to become. And once you learn that, that's when you collapse time. Right? And divine timing, I get asked this question often, but if everything happens in divine timing, then what is the need for manifestation? Because if my life's already planned out for me, then I wouldn't need to worry about any of this stuff, right? But divine timing is going, yes, you are able to manifest anything that you desire. And if you don't learn these lessons, it might not happen in this lifetime. So you could come back with karma that you still need to transcend in order to really receive what it is that you desire. And so divine timing doesn't mean necessarily that it's absolutely going to happen in this lifetime if you're not going to learn the lessons. So you really have to learn the lessons. You have to go, okay, the universe is bringing all of these things in front of me. And if I learn them and if I transmute them and if I see how every challenge is happening for me, this is how I like to practice gratitude. I don't practice, like I obviously practice gratitude for the things that I have, but true gratitude comes through when I practice it for the things that are challenging me, that feel really hard, that feel like they're cracking me open, that feel really challenging. That is when I deeply practice gratitude of how is this happening for me? And when you can see how it's happening for you, that is when you're going to see things as information, learn a lesson, and move through life faster. It really is. That is what I really believe divine timing is. It's not a length of time, it's how quickly can I learn lessons. And when you do that, that's when you quantum leap. I want to take a moment to recap everything we've spoken about, to go through why the void happens. If you're like most people, you set out on this journey to manifest one thing. And what happens along the way is you become more enlightened about who you are. And so there's a shattering process of you letting go of everything you thought you had to be in order to become the version you're meant to be. That is really challenging because when you change and grow and evolve, you'll often find that the people that you used to hang around just don't resonate anymore. And so you might feel like you're losing friendships and relationships, and that can be really hard. You'll feel like you're moving backwards, and that can be part of the void. Because of your growth and your evolution and all of these awareness concepts coming into play, you're also going to maybe start to change what you want in life. And so you're going to hit a point of confusion of, well, am I meant for this? Am I not meant for this? And again, you're going to have many failed experiences. I say that in inverted commas, because everything is going to show you what you do want. If you don't know what you want right now, you're going to get a whole lot of things that you don't want. And this is one of the best exercises you can do if you don't know what you want. Write out a list of everything you don't want. And then change that into, actually, this is everything I do want. And you can go down your list and go, oh, this is everything I do want. That's also part of the void, is that you're going to have this confusion. You're going to really question, like, oh, what are all these different things that I want? And I feel like I'm moving backwards because I thought I knew what I wanted and now I don't. But it's just because you've deepened your awareness of who you are. You're going to maybe be in the void because you still see how far you have to go, but you've stopped looking back to see just how much you've achieved and celebrate that, really deeply celebrate that. You might be stuck in the void because you feel like you're doing the manifestation, but it's actually how you're living your 23 hours of your life, not just the hour of the morning routine that you're doing. You manifest from your predominant frequency, not your temporary state of being. And so that is why people get stuck in the void. That is why you'll probably feel at times that your manifestations are getting further away from you. And the best way to overcome the void is to embrace the void. And I know that that sounds strange, but people that want to race through the void are the arrow that gets let out of the bow too quickly and it falls in front of you. And then you have to reload the bow. You have to go back through the process of being pulled back in order to be catapulted forward. And when you sit in the void and you go, what is this void teaching me? What am I here to learn from this void? What are all the possibilities that could be available to me? Because the crux of it all is that the same mind that created the problem cannot solve the problem. And so you have to change your environment. You have to sometimes shock yourself out. And this is where I really love leaning into the signature theme of the human designs. And I'll do a separate episode on that because that will bring light to it in a different way. But leaning into your signature, because if you can lean into your signature, so manifestors are peace, generators and manifesting generators are satisfaction, projectors are success, reflectors are delight or surprise. And for me, when I started to lean into finding my signature every day, which was satisfaction in small little ways, not only did I find confidence in myself again, but everything started to shift because I stopped seeking the future and I started to live in the now. And the point of manifestation is to really make this moment everything that it could be. And this is when this concept really landed deeply for me because I have learned how to deeply enjoy every moment. I was standing, and if you are from Dublin or have ever been to Dublin, we live in Dunneary, and the pier in Dunneary is beautiful. And we were standing and we were overlooking everything, and it's got such a special place in my heart. That entire pier, like just the ocean in general, has a very special place in my heart. And I said to Lloyd, I was like, if this is the best it gets to be already, and I know that the best is yet to come, how amazing is life? And that's the feeling that you need to walk through with life, is that I'm so deeply grateful for this moment and living in this presence of it all. And I know that the best is yet to come, because gratitude does not mean that you've become complacent about your life. Gratitude does not mean that because you're so grateful, you're not calling in more. It's, I'm so deeply grateful, universe, show me how good it gets to be. And when you view manifestation through that lens, you'll stop seeing the void as this place of emptiness and darkness, and you'll be able to transcend it. But also know that if you are in that darkness, I know how deeply difficult it can be. And maybe you've manifested this podcast into your life because you just wanted somebody to deeply see that with you starting all of the manifestation practices, it's actually cracked open your life and made it harder and more challenging. And you want to go back to being blissfully ignorant and not aware of all of the stuff because it feels like life was better before. But I promise you, if that is you right now, when you go through the void and you are able to hold your manifestations and you're the energetic container that can bring in more desires, you are going to surpass your own expectations for your life, and you're going to live a life that is better than what you see on your vision board. And that is what I want you to know today. So if you have enjoyed this episode, please, could you do me the honor of sharing it with somebody that you think might take something of it? If you could leave a review or share this on your Instagram or spread the word, I would be, from the bottom of my heart, eternally grateful. If you are not following me on social media, I'm at that Manifestation Mama, and I cannot wait to see you in our next episode. Bye for now.